So having arrived 2 years and 1 month ago, month 4 I realized, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to stand here. This is gonna be really hard. Somebody has to cue me back over. Realize that we have a lot of needs and there's a shortage of funding, so we're making some really bad decisions, but we're gonna have to make them because of limited resources. I'm gonna start with an example first. So right now, we have hybrid police cars that have significant mileage on them. I'll go a little bit, but just so you know, if I've got bad decisions. So we have cars worth about $2,000 that we're spending $6,000 to put hybrid batteries in. Well, that's not a good business decision. We want to get out of that loop. So when you talk about our budget, you have the general fund, which is sales tax, property tax, and the third is the state turnback tax. And so on top of this is your franchise fees, and then this is your expenses. You see, we always spend what we get. The problem is our needs are really way up here, but our revenues are here. So we're deferring a lot of things. This is not new. We've been deferring things for decades. So it's time we go ahead and address those. If you look at this slide, here's your sales tax revenue, which has been flat for the last 5 years, been flat for a while. Your property tax runs $495,000 plus or minus change every year. The benevolence of Little Rock, we get turned back, and that usually is around $200,000 plus or minus. Franchise fees have slipped a little because everybody's getting mad at Suddenlink and bailing out, and so that's what's caused a little drop in there. So flat revenues all across the board, and then your expenses continue to increase, as we all know, over the last 30 years. If you look at the budget for 2019, this is how we spend our money. This is fairly typical. Police is a preponderance of that. If we had a full-time fire department, this number and this number would be almost identical. When you look at cities, that's the way that rolls. Thankfully, we have a really great volunteer fire department that works with our full-time guys, and so that's why this number is artificially low. So when you look at our needs, we collated them into 4 basic areas. That's public safety, streets and sidewalks, drainage, and public facilities. That way we can comprehend where we're at and what we're trying to do. Let's talk about the police department first. We have a significant immediate need to replace our cars. We have, most of our frontline cars are 9 years old and average 130,000 miles. They're hybrids, which means at 80,000 miles we replace a battery. So what seemed like, and was a good thing on the front end, getting grants for long-term for buy these hybrid cars, 80,000, we're putting new batteries in at 6,000. So we get caught in that trap. We don't have 30 grand to replace a car, but thankfully we've been in some wrecks, right? We've had officers get hit by deer. You see, I got that right. And so they'll total a car. So we have one car down with a bad battery, so we replace that because we get insurance money. And then we had a lady T-bone one of our officers downtown, which was great because we had a car down with a bad battery. We got a settlement, bought a battery, and got that car back online. Now we're doubling up officers and cars, which is not optimal, but those are the decisions you make when you have no cash flow or very limited cash flow. Technology, as we all know, plays a huge role in police and crime fighting. We're not up to snuff on our technology, folks. There's a lot of software out there. There's a lot of GIS software out there that would help and aid our officers that we don't have the hardware or the software to take advantage of. And then one other thing we want to talk about, the police station was not designed to be a police station, so there are significant issues that we need to address within there. On the fire side, we're very grateful. We have a new fire chief, so the list for the fire went from here to here with the hiring of chief. So some things we need to talk about. Personnel gear. We have bunker gear. Bunker gear is the stuff they wear to go fight fires. And so that is usually it is a 5-year life, and you can extend it for 5 more years. But we have bunker gear that's exceeded 10 years, so it's not certified to go fight a fire. We're better than that. As a community, we've got to be better than that. We don't want to send our boys in to fight a fire with outdated equipment. Right now, Chief told me that our captains don't go in to fight fires because they've given their bunker gears over to other folks. So the most experienced officers we have aren't even going into fires. Not good or bad, it's the reality of where we're at. Jaws of life. So along I-30, all of Clark County, we're the responding agency for traffic accidents. Our jaws of life are 25 years old hydraulic system. They don't work well. Thankfully, Chief Hunt had a friend who sells these, who loaned us some stuff. Had we not had that, I'm not sure we could have got the gentleman cut out of that really bad 18-wheeler wreck a month and a half ago. We had to go through the bottom and cut him out. Those are the things that we need to get in. You also have two things that are really imminent. The gear they wear, the breathing apparatus gear they wear, the machines and the tanks all expire in 2020. It's a $185,000 expense we don't have a revenue stream for. You also have special washers and dryers because they found that regular washers and dryers don't get the carcinogens out of the bunker gear, and so they've created these machines that do. And in 2020, they're mandated. That's another $40,000, round numbers, $40,000 that we don't have an income stream to address that's mandated. Even if it weren't mandated, I think as a community, we would want to have those equipment for our folks to fight fires with. So if you take all that and kind of roll it up in some general categories, 911 communication upgrades, so PSAPs, or when you call 911, they go to these PSAPs, and currently there's like 127, not close, right? 127 PSAPs. The state mandated would go down to 77. So we're going to be required at our participation level, the budget's $91,000 within the next year or two. 2020, so it's coming down the pipe, but we have no income stream to address that $91,000 expense. We talked about vehicles. Did we talk vehicles enough? So there's another set of vehicles that are 6 years or older. They have about 80,000 miles. So basically all our frontline vehicles are dated, and we need to have a revenue stream to replace that. Budget's like $1 million that we have no money to use. Lap-led building upgrades, we talked about that. Field training. So if you don't have enough money, where do you cut? Well, the last 3 years, the chief in his budget has cut training. So he hasn't bought the bullets to practice with and some other things and brought in folks to help train us on the highest and best practices. That's something we want to overcome. We believe as a community we should be taking care of them and training them to the best of their abilities. Laptops are disposable anymore. So as y'all know, buying a laptop and letting it go for 8 years is not exactly how that should be. So we want to upgrade the laptops or replace them and then keep them fresh. New fire chief with a bunch of stuff. We talked about the air pack. We have some vehicles that we're going to need to replace. Turnout gear, laptops again. There's some really cool technology that fire has that if we were able to purchase, so that you roll up on, as you're rolling up on a scene, it pops out and it shows you where everything is, where to enter the fire. They can engineer how to attack fires in buildings, which is a life safety issue for them. Station 2 has not been upgraded since we built it 20-something years ago. Siren replacement, we're at maybe 40% of capacity right now. There's other technology we can get into, like Code Red and all that we'd like to pursue, but that's where we're at. We talked about the extractor and jaws of life. Streets and sidewalks, that's probably one of the complaints that I hear most. We have a street department that has about $875,000 a year revenue stream that's dedicated for that from the state. We have 5 guys trying to take care of all the streets in Arkadelphia. Not complaining, just again, reality. So what we're looking at doing is increasing that revenue stream so that we can address existing streets, existing sidewalks, and expand some. We got some really narrow streets in town. Again, it would be better for our fire and police equipment to run up and down if we had wider streets. Some of the work that we would propose to do would be above and beyond the 5 guys that we have. So y'all live on, some of y'all live on streets where it's supposed to be 2-inch asphalt, and it was like 30 years ago, and then they overlaid and overlaid and overlaid, right? We need to have some company come in and mill that down and get it back to its base level. So just some things, micro seal and crack seal the road, that's for longevity's sake. Engineering is important because we don't have a revenue stream to address some of those needs. Replace existing sidewalks, participate in I-30. We don't know that there'll be an exit at I-30, but there's nothing free, right? You'll need to understand there's no grants, there's no panacea out there. There's nothing that's free. We'll talk about grants in a few minutes, but suffice it to say, we participate in everything we do. A good example of that is the bypass. Department of Transportation said, yeah, we'll come in and put a bypass and we'll widen Pine and bring it back to the city. But you have to come up with $8 million. Well, the city didn't have it, the Alliance stepped up. And so they committed that $8 million so that we could get the widening and a new bypass. Ladies and gentlemen, the air conditioner doesn't work in here. That's one of the issues, so if you apologize. That's one of the things on the list is to replace this air conditioner. So that's kind of the stuff we're talking about. Traffic signage. Pink is not the official color of a stop sign. It is red. So we got a lot of. Some of y'all grew up here, have been here forever. Y'all go down to Charlie's house, take a right, 2 blocks, take a left, and you're there, right? Well, put in a GPS 2 years ago when you're trying to find a place, and it goes, you should be here, and you look up and there's no street signs. We got a lot of new people that want to come in and live in this town. We need to get some signage to help them get around town. Replace existing curbs, add sidewalks, middle of the streets like we talked about, and we'll have to supplement hot mix because we can't make enough of our own. We'll have to supplement that. Storm drainage, we call it a utility for this purpose. Drainage is like, you talk about drainage in Arkansas and everybody sticks their head in the sand like an ostrich. They don't want to admit it. We have issues in Arkansas, but we do. As you will know, the last 2 years, right, we've had a lot of issues. So our goal would be to create a team that goes in and works every day in the drainage utilities, whether it's a creek, whether it's an actual part of the stream, whatever that conveyance of water is, we want somebody in there to work in that every day. So the plan would be to create a 3-man team with really good equipment to get in and do it. We don't want to have a 22-man crew working in the ditches, so we would invest money in equipment instead of folks to get down in there and do that. So this is kind of what, if we create that utility, this is what it might look like. Track hose, this is the equipment. That's very expensive, a great all excavator. It can do phenomenal work. Projects that are too big for our men to go in, they would actually be able to hire crews. There's money allocated for that, contract labor. So let me tell you how this works. At a previous place where I lived, we had a $16 million problem with drainage. And so what we did was we created a drainage utility, a little different. We taxed the residents every month like your water bill. And so through this utility, we started making repairs. But we also put the boys in the ditches to clean the ditches out, and widen them where they could, keep them clean, keep the water flowing. What was a $16 million problem at the end of 5 years was an $8 million opportunity. Because after we spent $8 million, the water flowed, we were in good shape, we didn't have to spend the other 8. So that's the hope for us. We'll take advantage of that, we'll get in, we'll clean it up, and then we'll flow without having to make significant investments. I will tell you this, there are 7 pinch points in town. So before every rain, our guys go out and check it. They check in the middle of the rain, and they check at the end of the rain for logs and things like that coming in, grocery baskets coming in and stopping up those drains. Another one's basketballs. You wouldn't think that, but if y'all see a stray basketball in a rainstorm, grab it, do something with it, because they will clog up a drain quicker than ballots, right? So that would be our goal and our intent for creating a utility to get the men in there and get it going. Let's talk about public facilities. Y'all have, as a city, have done a good job about like building this building in the park. We've passed taxes to pay for the bonds for these, but we never addressed the operation and maintenance. So we've added assets with the same amount of declining, because expenses go up, declining revenues for O&M. So that leads to us kicking the can down the road. Good example is the water park. It's a 20-footer. Y'all ever know what a 20-footer is? You're looking at a car at 20 feet, it looks really good. At 10 feet, and then when you get right up on it, you go, ooh, not so good. Our pool is like that. We've done a good job of keeping it clean and looks good, but when you walk up on it and you see the deferred maintenance and the rusting, and the pool has some cracks in it, needs to be painted, the slides need to be updated. It's a 20-footer. Looks really good from 20 feet away. But that's just deferred maintenance because we had to make decisions on where to spend the money. Air conditioner units is another one. If we can forego an air conditioner unit, we do. If you were here Monday, it was really cold in here, right? Because we pumped that sucker full of Freon because we knew y'all would be coming. And it worked great Monday. Wednesday's on. Today it's just bloody hot, and I apologize for that. But we have units like that throughout. Some other examples, you may or may not know the train depot is our responsibility. Somewhere down the line, we accepted responsibility as a city for the train depot. They have a roof replacement need. It's $295,000 with no revenue stream to address that. We made a patch, bought some time, but there's a $295,000 bill. That's last year's dollars coming down the pipe that we need to address. HVAC units, let's talk about the park. So we have a $15,000 problem at the baseball field because where the high schoolers play baseball, foul balls come out really hot over where the little girls play softball. We need to extend the fence. We don't have the $15,000 to do that. Make tight the water center. We have roof leaks at the art center. I don't know if y'all know, we're responsible for that. We accepted responsibility for it years ago. That's another $15,000 issue. The other one we really want to address, well, there's some things at Town Hall. We have an two air conditioning systems. One's out, one's going out. Needs to be painted. It's a 20-year-old building. We've deferred that forever. All that being said, let's go back to the trails. Feaster Trail is something we brag about as a community all the time. But if you've been on Feaster Trail, it has not been taken care of because we, again, make decisions on where to spend money, and it's an ankle breaker. That should be something that is phenomenal, pristine, and helps sell this community to other folks who want to live here. We've got to address that deferred maintenance. Let's talk well before we do that. Let's talk about grants. There's a perception that, oh, we'll just go out and get grants for this and grants for that. Well, grants aren't free. And when I was hired, the lady I replaced, Brenda, says, you're not going to understand this in the front end, but you will in the middle. And she said, you will have an opportunity to get a $100,000 grant. You have to put 10% down, and you're not going to have 10%. And I said, I'll throw $10,000 to get 90 every time. She goes, you would, but you're not going to have it. And she's right, we don't. At the municipal league meetings last week, the mayor of Jonesboro got up to speak. He's the new mayor, the new president-elect, and he mentioned, he said, beginning in 2008, when the economy changed, everything has changed for us. Grants are harder to get, there's fewer of them, and the participation to get those is higher. Some of the things that the Department of Transportation do, I was in a meeting where they were talking about it. The cities are matching 50-50. In the past, we've done 80-20 grants. Some of the sidewalks we do through their sidewalk program are 80-20. So we can take some of our street money, match it with the state, and put in a sidewalk repair here or there. But those are all small items but that's all that we do. So that's all I've got to reference on grant. So you say, okay, Gary, what are you talking about? Well, if we talk about where we're at in the marketplace on sales tax revenue specifically, cities our size, we're at the bottom. Well, we're tied with hope. So if you look at cities that have colleges and are being progressive and taking care of themselves and growing their communities, Magnolia's at 2.375, Batesville's at 2. Additionally, so I've had these meetings come up, people say, where are we at in